In today's class, we'll be looking at what are nested classes in Java. So what do you mean by a nested class? It is nothing but a class defined within another class. For instance, if I say this is class A and you have another class, class B, this class is defined or embedded within this class. So you call this class to be a nested class. So the definition of a nested class is very simple. It is defining a class inside another class. So this is the definition. A nested class is a class that is defined within another class. And here again I have given that example. You have a class, nested class. This entire class, if you take a look at this entire class, this is defined within the outer class. So you call such a class, the concept is known as nested classes. You may be wondering why we need to have this kind of a concept. What is the need for us to embed a class inside another class? So I have given an example here. So you have this outer class. This class actually has another class defined within it. This is the class inner. This entire class, you see, this is nested within the class outer. So as I told you, what is the benefit of having a class nested here? There can be situations wherein this class will be used only once and that can be used within another class. So no other class or no other places we are going to use this class, and this will be used only once within our outer class. So in such a scenario, we'll go in for a nested class. Another important advantage here is you can very well make this class access the private data members of your outer class. Say you can enable a class to access the private data members of another class. This is one of the important features of nested classes. So you can see here, this class prints the variable A. A is nothing but a private string that is present in the outer class. So a nested class is allowed to access all the variables no matter what data type they are, maybe private, protected, static, or public. So all these data members can be accessed by our inner class. Another important property is this inner class is just like a data member for the outer class. So what are the data members for the outer class? We have private string A. This is one data member. This is another data member. This entire class is like a data member for the outer class. So you can very well define this to be private, protected, or public, like you define a data member. So once when you say a class is of a private type, you can just hide this entire class from the outside world. So this entire class is hidden from the outside world, thereby you improve encapsulation, and also you allow this class to access the private data members or any data members of the enclosing class. So these are some of the important properties of a nested class. And there's one more thing that we have to understand. The outer class cannot access any of the variables of the inner class, even though the variables are public. So this is what we have discussed just now. Why use nested classes? It is nothing but a logical grouping of classes together. I told you there are situations wherein a class will be used only once and that can be used within another class. So we just go in with the logical grouping of these classes together to give it more meaning, and our code also becomes more readable and maintainable. The most important factor we get by having nested classes is it increases encapsulation. We can hide an entire class inside another class by making it private, and you can enable a class to access the private data members of another class. So we've already looked at some of the properties, but before going into the properties, let us try some code. Let's go to Eclipse. For that, we'll have a class by name outer. and within this class we'll have a class by name nested, and this class, as you can see, is nested within the outer class. I can even say this is a nested class. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have some variables in the outer class. We'll have a public string variable 1, we'll have a private string variable 2, and we'll have a protected variable here, protected string variable 3. We'll also have one more variable, public static int count is equal to 1, a static variable, and we'll have a default constructor to initialize these values to some default values. So let me have a default constructor here. So we'll say variable 1 is equal to test1, something like that. Variable 2 is equal to test2. Variable 3 is equal to test3. Okay, so we've initialized the variables. We have some variables in the outer class of different data types and access modifiers are present. And we'll have a method inside our nested class. So this is our nested class. Inside this, we'll have a method, public method, and we'll call this to be a display method. So what we are going to test in this demonstration is, can I access all these three variables, say public, private, protected variables, and also static variable inside my nested class? Because that's what we have seen. A nested class can access the variables of the outer class no matter what kind of data type it belongs to. So we'll just go and check that. We'll have a sysout statement here, and then we'll print all the variables, variable 1 plus variable 2 plus variable 3. We'll also print this count. So our classes are ready, the outer class is ready, the nested class is ready. Now we have to go and create objects to access the nested class. So how to now run this display method? To run this display method inside a class, you need an object of nested class. Okay, whereas this nested class is a data member in the class outer. So it's like any other data member, right? Say it's public string, private string, like that. This is a public class or private class. Say let's say it's public class. So this is a data member in the outer class. So how will you access a variable within a class? You need an object dot variable name. Likewise, how can you access this nested class? You need an object of the outer class. So there are two simple things you have to keep in mind. To access a method inside a class, you need an object. So to access display, we need an object of type nested. Again, what is this nested class? It is like a data member inside outer class. Say this is a data member, this is a data member, and this is another data member. So how will you access a data member within a class? You have to go with an object of the outer class. So it's outer dot string, outer dot variable 2, outer dot variable 3, right? Likewise, you should have an object of outer class to really access the nested class. So it may be a little confusing, but when we go in for the demonstration, this will be simple. So we can access the display method here. For that we have two steps. First thing is we need to create an object for the outer class. How will you create this? It's the usual way, like outer, I'll say out obj is equal to new outer. So we created an object for the outer class. So using this object, we will be creating an object for the nested class. So I'll show you how is that. We have to give the outer class name dot inner class name, that is the nested class, and then the object for the nested class, it's nested object. is equal to, we have to give the object of the outer class. What is the object of the outer class? It's out obj dot new and then the nested class. So what we are doing in this step is we are creating an object for the nested class using the outer class object. So how you do that? It's outer class dot nested class name, and the object name for the nested class is equal to outer class object dot new, the nested class name. Okay, so we have created an object for the nested class. So nested object is nothing but an object for the nested class. Now we can use that object and do a dot display. Let's go and perform. So it's nested object dot display. Okay, so what it should display, what this one should display, it should display the values in variable 1, variable 2, variable 3 plus count. These variables are variables of the outer class and they belong to different data types. We are trying to access all these variables within our nested class. So let's go and run this. You see here, so within our nested class we are able to print all the variables of our outer class. So this is the important feature of a nested class. You can access variables of all data types of the enclosing class. Okay, so we have done with our understanding of nested classes. I hope you are following me. The next thing that we have to learn is an outer class cannot access any of the data members of the nested class. Say let me go and declare a data member here. Let me declare a data member for my nested class. So let me go with the public data member, public, we can say string variable, or I'll say nested variable. So it's a variable inside the nested class, and we'll have a default constructor here inside our nested class. And what we are going to do here is we'll just do nested var is equal to nested value, some value, default value will initialize. So there is a public data member inside my nested class. Can I access that from my outer class? So let me try that. Let me put a method in my outer class. So this is a method in the outer class and it's a public method. So it says display nested class variable, something like that. We'll try and do a sysout. What we are trying to print here is we are trying to print this variable which has been initialized to nested value. It's a public variable. Let me try to print it here. So I'll say nested variable. Okay, when I try to access this public variable inside my outer class, you can very well see that there is an error. Nested variable cannot be resolved to a variable. So it just says that an outer class cannot access any of the data members of the inner class, no matter even when that particular data member is a public type. So you can very well see an outer class cannot access any of the data members of the nested class, no matter what kind of data type or access specifier they have. Let it be public, private, protected or static, no matter what you declare here, your outer class has got no access to these variables. So these are some of the properties of a nested class. I hope you are able to follow this. Okay, now let's move on to the next property. Say, can we have static data members inside our nested class? So let me go and delete this. We don't need this. The next question we have here is, can we have static data members and methods in our nested class? The answer to this is no. Why it is a no? Because you see, a nested class is a data member of the outer class, and how will you access a nested class? Using an object of the outer class. So everything inside the nested class is associated with an object of the outer class, and that's why we cannot have any static declarations inside our nested class, because the nested class itself is associated to an object. We cannot have static declarations. For instance, if I do have a declaration like this, public static int count1 is equal to 1. If I try to declare a static variable, immediately I'll be getting an error here. That is, the field cannot be declared static in a non-static inner type. So this is not allowed. I can very well write it here. This is not allowed. Likewise, you cannot even have a static method. Say if I'm going to have public static void test method, and then if I try to do something here, sysout, can I have a static method? So you see we have an error here. So what is this error? The method test cannot be declared static, so you cannot have a static method. So that's what is the meaning. You should not, or you cannot have a static method in a nested class that is non-static. So this nested class, what is the type of this? It's public, and it's not a static nested class. So when your class is not defined to be a static nested class, you cannot have static methods and static variables in your class. So a class like this, which is non-static and which is nested within another class, is also known as, this is also known as an inner class. So what is an inner class? A class that is non-static and that is nested within another class, or that is defined within another class, is also known as an inner class. Okay, so we have gone through all the properties of nested classes. Mostly, I hope I have covered most of the important properties of nested classes using a simple demonstration, and we have seen it practically that what is possible and what is not possible with a nested class. I hope you have understood this. So we have looked at all the nested class properties with a demonstration, and you can read through all this theory on your own. So an instance of an inner class or a nested class can exist only with an instance of an outer class. This is a very important thing that you have to keep in mind. We also seen through a demonstration how to create an object of an nested class. So a non-static nested class is known as inner class. So this is what we have seen in the demonstration, how to create an object for the outer class and how to create an object for the nested class. So I'll be using the terms nested class and inner class frequently. I'll be interchanging these things because we know what is an inner class. It is a non-static nested class. We have seen with the demonstration how to access members of the outer class from within a nested class, and we have seen that how we cannot access members of the nested class from within an outer class. So now let's take an example. Let's take an exercise and see how we can use nested classes. So here there is a class by name faculty, and faculty members have some attributes. For instance, every faculty will have a name, employee ID. So there can be more attributes. For time constraint, we'll take only 2 attributes, and all the faculty members will also have this attribute degree or qualification. So I'll say degrees. So this can be public or private name, private employee ID, Likewise, private degree. So, but when you take a look at this attribute or data member degree, this is a very complex attribute. Degree, when you think about degree, degree itself is a class. For instance, degree might have other attributes like uh, name of the degree. Say I'll call this degree name, and awarded year when this degree was awarded, and awarded by which university awarded this, awarded by. So like that, a degree, the variable or this data member degree itself has got many other attributes defining it. And you can also have methods like set details for the degree, right? We can have some methods, or we can say print degree details, print details for the degree. So you can also attach some behavior with the data members for the degree attribute. So this is nothing but this variable or the data member degree in turn is a class. It has got multiple attributes defining it, and it has got some methods defining it. And when you talk about this degree, it is used only with respect to the faculty, and we are not going to reuse this class in some other parts of our project or in a system. So degree itself becomes a class that is used once within the faculty class, and no one else is going to access degree. So we can make degree to be a class put up as a nested class inside faculty class. Let's now perform this. Let's go to Eclipse. Let me delete all these things from a previous exercise. So our outer class here is faculty, and what we'll do is we'll have some private variables, private string name, that is faculty name, private string employee ID, and we'll have a constructor here. Let's not have it as a default constructor. Let's get in the name string input name and string input emp id, and we'll initialize like this: name is equal to input name, and employee id is equal to input employee id. So we've initialized the variables of our outer class. I was talking to you about this degree attribute, right? Say if I have public degree, this degree itself is a class. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So it's nothing but public class degree. I'm changing this attribute degree to a class because you have certain data members defining it. Say data members for degree class. So what are the data members here? Public string. I'll say this is degree name. Likewise, public string, and then I'll call this awarded year, in which year the degree got awarded. And I'll go with another thing, public string awarded by, which university awarded this, something like that. Okay, now we'll have a constructor. So this constructor is going to get in some values, for instance string input degree name, and then string input year when it was awarded, and string input awarded by, something like that. And we will initialize this when we create an object. So it is degree name, whether it is BTech, MTech, or what degree it is, that is initialized to input degree name, and awarded year is nothing but input year. Likewise, awarded by is nothing but the input awarded by. So while we are creating this object for degree, we'll be giving all these parameters. This is to just print the degree details. So it's like display degree details. And what we are going to have here is we are going to have an ugly sysort statement that just prints everything together. Degree name plus degree, it's awarded year plus awarded by. So these are the members of the nested class degree, and this is the constructor to initialize our nested class object, and this is the method that prints all the data from our nested class. So now we'll go and create a faculty object, and we'll pass some degree for him, and then we'll print the degree details. We'll go and see how to invoke this, and we can also do this. We can also perform a sysort here, and we can say the faculty name is, see here is the catch, we are also printing the faculty name, which is a private variable in our outer class. We are able to access that here. So we'll say the faculty name is it is nothing but name, and we can also have another sysort and say the employee ID is, and then emp ID. So instead of calling this degree details, we can say display faculty details, something like that with the degree. Okay, I made a mistake here. This is faculty. So what we are trying to do in this method that is present within the nested classes, just print these two variables from the outer class and also print the degree details from the inner class. So now let us go and create an object. So create an object for faculty. How will you create that? It's a normal way, faculty, say f1 is equal to new faculty. But we have to pass the data for the parameterized constructor. Say I'll say the faculty is Satish and his employee ID is 222. Now we have to create an object for degree. So create an object for the nested class degree. So how will you create this? It is nothing but outer class faculty dot degree, and degree object is say degree object degobj is equal to f1 dot new degree. Okay, and while you're creating an object for degree, you should keep in mind your parameterized constructor here. So we'll pass the data for the degree. We'll say btech, awarded year, I'll say 2020, just now I graduated, and finally it is awarded by VIT, something like that. So why I'm giving these values here? Because this object, when I'm creating an object of type degree, it has a parameterized constructor. So I have created a faculty and I have created an object, a degree object. I have associated that with faculty. I passed the values. Now let us go and call degree object degobj dot display faculty details. So this object is of type degree, and this is going to invoke this method display faculty details, which in turn will print the private data members of the faculty class and also the degree details. Let's go and execute this. You see, the faculty name is Satish, the employee ID is 222, and this is the degree that was awarded to him. So we have taken a simple exercise on nested classes here, and I want to give you an exercise that is a continuation of this. A faculty member can have multiple degrees. That is, a faculty can be associated with multiple degree objects on an array of degree objects. Faculty will have an MTech, BTech and PhD degree. So multiple degrees you will have. So you have to have multiple degree objects associated with a faculty object. So you should be able to print the faculty name along with the list of degrees that has been awarded to him. So this is the exercise that you should be able to complete with whatever input I have given you. Please carry out this exercise. Okay, let us see how to solve this exercise. In the previous example, we are looking at a faculty having 1 degree. Now a faculty is associated with an array of degree objects. So how to go and create this using nested classes? So I have to make some changes here. Let me copy this statement. Let's have the statement of the problem here. A faculty associated with multiple degree objects, and the very important thing is we have to print the details of the faculty and all the degrees that he is holding. So we'll go and see what changes we need to do. So let me delete this method here. So we can go and create many degrees for a faculty by passing the values to this constructor. That is fine. So earlier we were just creating one object, 1 degree object. Now it is going to be an array of degree objects. We'll see how to create this. Faculty will be associated with many degrees. So here we have to create an array of degree objects. Why we create an array of degree objects? We need to hold all the degree details of the faculty. They can have many degree objects. Okay, now let's go and create this array of degree objects. So how will you go and create that? It is outer class dot nested class, and then degree object name, say it's an array, so you just give 2 parentheses is equal to new faculty dot degree, and let's say we have 2 objects in our array. Let's say a faculty can have 2 degrees maximum. So that's how you create an array of degree objects, and here degree is a nested class. Now what we have to do is we have to pass the values to our object, right? We have to create 2 degree objects. How will you create that? We have to run a loop for int I is equal to 0, I less than degree object dot length I plus plus. So we have done this many times in array of objects. The same thing. How do you create an array of objects? So we'll have a scanner class here to read the input. We'll have some variables to read the degree values from the user. So we'll have scanner input is equal to new scanner and then system.in. We'll also initialize some variables like string and input degree name that is going to be given by the user, and string year that is going to be passed when this degree was awarded by the user, and string we'll say given by which university gave this degree. So all this data will be coming from the user. So we'll have a sysout statement and then say enter the degree name. So we'll say degree name comma awarded here. We'll have everything in one sysout here due to time constraint, and given by. We'll read everything. So degree name is input dot next line. So we have read the degree name, and so which year it was awarded, year is equal to again input dot next line. Likewise given by which university gave this degree, we'll read it input dot next line. All the data we are reading it from the user here. So once when this data is entered, we have to go and create an object for that, right? A reference pointing to that object on the heap. So it is dgobj of I is equal to. So we have to now use the outer class object. So that is f1 dot new degree, and since degree is a parameterized constructor, we need to pass the values. Let's say what are the values being passed? That is The user enters D name, year, and given by. So this is how you create an object of the type nested class, right? If you want to create an object of nested class, how we are going to give object of the outer class dot new nested class name. We are passing the variables for the nested class, and we have created a reference to our first element in our array of objects. Like that, the user will enter the second element, I will go to 1, and then we'll create the next element in the array of objects. I hope you are able to understand this. So our degree object array contains two references to two degree objects. So first reference will be holding to the data entered by the user. Likewise, second reference will also be pointing to another degree object, and it will be holding the data entered by the user. So if you're confused with this, you have to take a look at our lecture on array of objects and how to create an array of objects. So our objects are done. Now we have to print the data of the faculty with all its degree details. So for that we need a method, and that method will be in our outer class. So it will be here. It is a public method. We'll call this display faculty details. What we are going to display inside this method is, we'll have a sysout statement. We'll say the name of the faculty is, we'll just give name. So we are printing the name here. We can also print this employee ID. The employee ID is, and then we can give emp ID. So name and emp ID we have printed, but we need the data about this degree. That data is actually present in this array, right? So we have to pass, or we have to read that array of objects here. So how will you read in an array? So it's of type degree, and then D is an array of objects. So you're going to read the array of objects corresponding to degree, and then we'll be printing it here. So here we are missing a plus, that's why it's giving an error. So what will you be passing to this method? This is nothing but, we'll call f1.displayDetails, and we'll pass this array that is holding all the degree details of the faculty, that is nothing but DEG OBJ. So this array is given to D, and now we have to run through this array and print all the degree details, for which we'll use an enhanced for loop. For every degree K in D, what we'll do is, we'll just go to a sysout, we'll print everything here. We'll print K dot degree name plus K dot awarded year plus K dot awarded by. Okay, so this runs through the degree array and prints all the degrees earned by the faculty. So for a faculty, we have associated that with multiple degree objects. That is the concept here. Let's go and run this one. So you have this enter degree name, awarded year, and given by. So this is what is shown here. And once when we enter the input, the degree objects will be created, and the references will be present in our array of objects. So let's enter the degree name to be BTech, and awarded year 2018, and given by VIT. Likewise, degree name can be MS, awarded year 2020, and then it is awarded by MIT. So now our faculty, say Satish, has got 2 degrees, and we have to print these details. So we are passing that to our faculty object, and the array of degrees, it is getting printed within the method inside the faculty object. So let's go and press and enter. So you see here, the name of the faculty is Satish, employee ID is 222. He has got a BTech degree from VIT in 2018 and an MS degree in 2020 from MIT. This may look a little complex for those who have not understood array of objects. I kindly request them to visit the lecture on array of objects so that whatever you have done here is much better and clear. So we have taken some good exercises on nested classes and how to create an array of objects for a nested class and access them using the outer class. And we can have multiple levels of nested classes as shown here. This is the outer class, and you have this inner class which is totally nested inside the outer class, and this inner class is again having another class nested in it. This is inner 2. So you can have any levels of nesting, but the advice is do not overuse any concept. Why? Because the code will become very difficult to maintain, and understanding the code also is very difficult for the maintenance engineers. So let's keep things simple. And let's take a look at how to create objects for multi-level nested classes. It's the same usual way like how you create an object for the nested class. First you create an object for the outer class. Next you use this object and you create an object for the inner class. Say we are using the object of the outer class to create an object for the inner class. Now this inner class is an outer class, right? So you can very well see here this inner class is an outer class. So what we are going to do here is we are going to use the object that we are creating here to create an object for the inner class too. So it is outer.inner.inner2. This is an object for the innermost class, and for this we are going to use the object of the outer class, that is this one will be used here, and dot new inner2. So you can go with any levels of nesting, but when you create an object for an inner class you have to use the object for the class that is nesting it. So this is the outer class which will be used for an inner class, and again this is like an outer class which will be used for the inner class that is nested within this. So you can try these things, but do not overuse the number of levels of nesting. And again you can also try this, you can have a class A that is like this, and you can have a nested class B, and you can have another class C, which actually extends B. So you see here these two classes are actually nested classes, that is part of class A, and you have a class inheriting another class, that is a nested class can extend another class, and you can go and create objects for the extended class too. So these are some of the properties. You can just go and try all these things on your own.